It's really something how wearable tech has just become part of everyday life. Maybe you're wearing something right now, tracking your steps, maybe your sleep last night. It's not just a gadget anymore.
No, it really isn't. And, while most of us think about it for our own health, maybe fitness, what's really striking is how it's radically changing something else entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Sports management.
Right, exactly. And that's what this deep dive is all about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We want to explore how these wearable sports technologies are really impacting the structure, the operations of sports management. Our mission here is to unpack the research you shared, which is, well, it's a fascinating look based on document analysis, right? Pulling together lots of existing info.
Precisely. It's about synthesizing what's out there from academic papers, industry reports, seeing how it's changing the game, literally. For teams, coaches, the whole organization.
Okay, so let's start with the basics then, make sure we're on the same page. When we say wearable sports technologies, what does the research actually mean by that?
Well, the sources define them as essentially smart devices you wear, either on your body or very close to it. So think integrated clothing, accessories, maybe smart rings, glasses, watches, bracelets, that sort of thing.
Okay.
The key is they have built-in sensors, microchips, and wireless communication.
Got it. So they sense things and talk to each other, basically, and their main job.
Monitoring. Yeah, real-time monitoring, physical condition, performance data, health indicators, all sorts of things.
While it's happening.
As it's happening, exactly.
And it's more than just the thing you wear, right? There's a whole system behind it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They connect up to your phone or other smart devices, use cloud services, usually Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. And that connection is crucial. It's how all that data gets collected, analyzed, shared.
Right.
The hardware is just one piece. You need good software behind it to make sense of it all.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for sports management, I think. How are these things actually being used? What are the benefits people are seeing?
Well, the research makes it pretty clear. They're a big boost for efficiency, data analysis capabilities for the organizations, the managers. But the benefits, they really kind of break down differently for the athletes versus the people managing them.
Okay, let's start with the athletes. What's in it for them?
For athletes, it's a huge shift. Instead of just relying on how they feel or, tests every now and then, they get this constant stream of objective, real-time data.
Like what kind of data?
Oh, the sources list all sorts of pulse, blood pressure, steps, calories, exercise intensity, distance, even body temperature, blood oxygen, running speed, training loads, sleep patterns, how well they're recovering, detailed physiological stuff. It's like having an internal dashboard.
Wow. That level of detail,
Yeah.
it must completely change how you design training.
Totally. It means you can have incredibly personalized training programs.
Yeah.
Instead of one size fits all, coaches can tweak things based on an athlete's specific response, their load data.
Makes sense.
And importantly, it's a powerful tool for injury prevention.
Wow.
By spotting signs of, say, musculoskeletal fatigue or identifying players who are at high risk before something bad happens, they can step in, adjust training, prevent the injury.
So it's not just pushing harder, it's training smarter and safer.
Exactly. And it helps speed up and manage recovery better, too. Gives objective feedback to fine-tune technique, improve performance. The sources even mention, basic safety monitoring, heart rate during tough sessions, and even some entertainment or recreation functions built in.
Okay, incredible detail for the athletes. Now, what about the coaches, the managers, the people looking at the bigger picture?
Yeah, for them, wearables offer this unprecedented level of information, a really comprehensive view. They see individual player health, sure, but also how the whole team is performing.
Which lets them analyze things much more precisely.
Far more precisely than before. And that directly helps improve training processes for the whole team or group.
It must take a lot of the guesswork out of making those big calls.
It really does. The data helps directly with strategic decisions. Resource allocation, tactical planning, it becomes more data-driven.
Any specific examples?
Yeah, the sources mention things like adjusting team strategies based on analyzing time and movement data from the players. They even brought up how you could aggregate individual data, maybe collected from something like Google Glass was mentioned as a type of device.
Right, I remember that. A bit older now maybe, but the concept.
Exactly. The concept is taking all that individual data and using it to understand group models, team dynamics on the field, how the unit functions.
Connecting the dots to see the whole team picture.
And it's also a huge support for sport medicine clinics and teams, monitoring athletes after injury, managing rehab pathways more effectively.
So the applications are really broad then?
Very broad. The sources listed quite a few. Performance tracking, analysis, load management, injury prevention, rehab, team analysis strategy, health monitoring, sport medicine, and interestingly, specific support for disabled athletes too.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that. That sounds really important. How are wearables helping there specifically?
This is a really positive finding in the research. These wearable sensors offer some significant advantages. They can help with classifying athletes in parasports, for instance, which helps ensure fair competition.
Okay.
And they're valuable for injury prevention, analyzing performance, making training more effective based on individual specific needs, their equipment.
And I guess the devices themselves, being wearable, can be quite accessible.
That's a key point. They're often unobtrusive, so they can support daily life without getting in the way while still providing that crucial sports data for training and competing.
Okay, so zooming out from the individual applications, all this tech, all this data, it must be making waves in the market itself.
Oh, absolutely. The research pointed to some pretty staggering growth figures. The global wearable tech market, estimated around $79 billion in 2024, is projected to jump to roughly $231 billion by 2032.
Wow, that's nearly triple in just 8 years.
It is. That's a compound annual growth rate of about 14.6%.
Huge numbers.
Yeah, and these aren't just abstract figures. They really signal the massive potential wearables have in sports management and, frankly, their growing importance for the whole sports industry's future.
What's driving that growth?
It's really fueled by rapid tech development and, intense market competition. Companies are constantly innovating, adding new features, improving what the devices can do.
But it can't all be smooth sailing, right? Technology really is. Yeah. With all this potential, I imagine the sources also pointed out some challenges, disadvantages.
Definitely. The research was very clear it's not a perfect picture. A lot of the main difficulties actually center around the data itself.
Okay, like what? Security, privacy?
Exactly. Data security and privacy are huge concerns. You're collecting really sensitive personal performance data. The risk of that information getting lost or breached if it's not properly protected, that's a major hurdle for organizations.
Makes sense. What else data-wise?
Well, there are questions about data accuracy. The sources noted that, not all devices are perfectly reliable all the time. They might not always give the correct results.
Right. Measurement error.
Yeah. And then there's just the sheer volume of data.
Information overload?
That's a term used in the research, yeah. You're getting continuous streams of data from many athletes. You need really sophisticated analysis software to process it, make sense of it, turn it into something useful. Otherwise, it's just noise.
Raw numbers aren't insights.
Exactly. Plus, for some devices, there's apparently a lack of solid evidence backing up the data quality claims or the marketing hype.
Okay, so data challenges. Security, accuracy, volume, validation. What about the devices themselves, the systems?
Well, cost is one. These things can be expensive, especially if you're outfitting a whole team or organization.
Sure.
Compatibility issues are another headache. Different devices, different brands. They might not play nicely together or integrate well with the software systems a team already uses.
Like different operating systems or something.
Yeah, or just interaction problems between devices. Then you have practical things like limited battery life, tricky in some sports contexts, technical limitations generally, integration problems. The sources also mentioned that some products seem to have a pretty short lifespan before they're outdated.
Planned obsolescence, maybe? Or just rapid development?
Probably a bit of both. But it can lead to reliability concerns, maybe some skepticism among users, coaches, stakeholders.
And then there's just getting people to use the new tech, right? The human factor.
Absolutely. User adaptation, getting buy-in.
Yeah.
That's always a crucial factor for any new technology implementation.
It's quite a complex picture. And just to circle back quickly, all this information came from analyzing existing documents.
That's correct. The insights we're discussing were built through that document analysis method, pulling together findings from academic articles, research papers, theses, journals, even newspapers and books. Anything relevant to wearables and sports management.
Synthesizing the existing knowledge base.
Exactly. Creating a comprehensive overview from what's already been researched and reported.
Okay. So, if we pull all of this together, what's the main takeaway from this deep dive into the research? The bottom line on wearables and sports management.
I think the fundamental finding is pretty unambiguous. Wearable sports tech isn't just some fad. It's already playing a really significant transformative role, and it holds, frankly, immense future potential for sports management.
So it's genuinely changing things.
It's fundamentally enhancing efficiency, reshaping how strategic decisions get made right across the board.
And the future looks like more of the same, continued growth.
That's the prediction from the research, yes. Continued rapid technological development. which is expected to lead to even wider use, more profound positive effects, really at all levels of sport, from grassroots right up to the elite pros.
But with a caveat.
With the important caveat that realizing that full potential really depends on tackling those challenges we talked about. The data issues, security, accuracy, overload, and the device issues, the integration problems. Addressing those difficulties head-on is crucial for guiding future development in the right way.
It really does change how you think about sport, doesn't it? Training, competing, even just, tracking your own run. This tech is reshaping the elite level, but it's also changing how you might approach your own activity, understanding your own body. So thinking about that rapid pace of development we discussed, the increasing power not just to track, but to analyze, maybe even predict. What happens when this tech moves beyond just showing data and starts making real-time recommendations, or even, perhaps, autonomous decisions for an athlete or a team? How might that change the coach's role?
Yeah.
Or the flow of a game? Or maybe, the athlete's own gut feeling, their agency in their own sport? Something to think about.